The cold had grown sharper, and with it, the silence around Nia. Days still blurred into one another, class, cafeteria, dorm, but something inside her was shifting. The cafeteria was still a battlefield. She still sat at the edge, her plate almost bare, stretching small bites into long moments. She still felt the weight of laughter around her, voices that curled into private circles she could never break. Yet on one particular day, she noticed someone else sitting alone, an unfamiliar face, another foreigner perhaps, though his skin was pale, his accent different. He sat hunched over his plate, shoulders folded in, chewing quietly, avoiding eye contact the same way she did. For a long time she stared at him from across the room. She recognized something in his posture, something that mirrored her own invisibility. It took 3 days before she sat across from him. She said nothing at first. Neither did he. But silence shared was different from silence endured alone. She felt it like a thin rope stretched between them, fragile but real. Later, she learned his name was David, a volunteer student from Eastern Europe. His clothes hung loose on his lanky frame, his hair always untidy, his voice soft and uncertain. He, too, struggled with the city. The loneliness. The feeling of being misplaced. They began to meet without planning it, choosing the same table, walking out of the cafeteria together. He listened more than he spoke, and she found herself talking, carefully at first, then more freely. Not about everything, not yet, but enough. Enough to ease the silence that had been pressing down on her chest. Nights were still difficult. She still lay awake, listening to the buzzing light, clutching her phone as though it might tether her to home. But now she had someone to message, someone who replied quickly, with clumsy words that nonetheless made her smile. She still dreamed of home, but the dreams began to soften. Instead of burning chapati and blood faces, she saw her mother's hands, her father's steady silhouette, her siblings chasing one another in the yard. The dreams no longer accused her of absence, they reminded her of what she carried inside. One evening, David asked if she wanted to walk into the city together. She almost said no, fear and habit urged her to stay in, but something inside pushed her forward. The streets at night looked different when she was not alone. She pointed at the glowing bakeries, the bookshops, the coats in the store windows. He laughed at her wide-eyed amazement, though he confessed he had done the same when he first arrived. When they stopped at a bakery window, she pressed her face to the glass again. The pastries gleamed golden under the lights. But this time, when her reflection stared back at her, she did not look quite so small. She looked accompanied. They pulled a few coins together, barely enough, but enough for one pastry. They shared it on the walk back to campus, breaking it into uneven halves, sugar clinging to their fingertips, laughing when the wind nearly stole the crumbs. For the first time since she had arrived, the city did not feel like a predator. It felt like something she might, eventually, learn to live with. That night, Nia stood before her cracked dorm mirror, acceptance letter spread on the desk. She whispered her name once more. The reflection still looked tired, her eyes still ringed with exhaustion, but this time, she believed herself. The name did not sound like a question. Survival no longer meant shrinking herself. Survival meant reaching out, even just a little, to someone else who understood. And for the first time, she let herself imagine a future here, not just enduring, but belonging.